Welcome to the virtual public meeting presentation for Jefferson County Road 73 corridor study from Buffalo Park Road to Plettner Lane. In this presentation, you will learn more about the project purpose, needs, and goals, and be provided a review of the draft conceptual designs. This presentation will last approximately 25 to 30 minutes. A PDF of the presentation is available on the project website if you'd like to go back and review certain information more closely. Once you've had a chance to review, please take a few minutes to fill out a survey using the SurveyMonkey link provided at the end of this presentation or on the project website to offer your comments, questions, or concerns. Your comments and feedback are critical to making the best decision for improvements in the study area, and we look forward to hearing from you. In the next few slides, we will be reviewing existing features along the corridor. If you'd like to review drone footage of the existing roadway segment, please pause this presentation and visit the YouTube link embedded on this slide, or it is also available on the project website. Jefferson County Road 73, or JC-73, is the primary route for residents of Evergreen between their homes and destinations along State Highway 74, with ultimate connections to I-70 and E-470. Access to US 285 at Conifer is also available along JC-73 to the south of the project corridor. This roadway is also a link for hundreds of thousands of visitors each year. In the event of an emergency, this roadway is one of the few primary evacuation routes for the foothill residents of the county. JC-73 has long been identified as a road where improvements are needed, especially bike and pedestrian infrastructure, shoulders, and access to properties, businesses, and downtown Evergreen. Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP funding, has been secured to construct safety and operational improvements including bike lanes, shoulders, and pedestrian facilities. The roadway is also being reconstructed, including drainage improvements and bridge replacement. The main goals of this project are to improve connectivity for bicycles and pedestrians, reduce future traffic congestion, improve safety for all users, and enhance accessibility to downtown Evergreen with additional parking and shared use paths. Jefferson County is working with a consultant team to assist on identifying conceptual design alternatives to identify a preferred alternative and to complete conceptual level design plans for an approximate half-mile segment of JC-73 between Buffalo Park Road to Plettner Lane. Existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities within this project area are very limited. An existing 5-foot sidewalk is located on the east side, north and south of Buffalo Park Road, but terminates approximately 300 feet north of the intersection. The next segment of sidewalk isn't until the northernmost end of the project limits along the west side across from Plettner Lane. There is a social path, or a worn path, present along portions of the corridor, namely along the top of the rock wall on the western limit of the roadway. There are several property accesses via stairwells that terminate at the very narrow roadway shoulder. The presence of these social paths indicates public is looking for pedestrian access along the corridor. Lastly, steep embankments and narrow shoulders force bicyclists to ride in traffic along the roadway segment. The corridor contains several locations where large dirt pull-offs have been used as informalized parking for access to businesses, residences, and downtown Evergreen. These informalized parking lots tend to provide an inefficient number of parking spaces and an adequate crosswalk or accessibility for all users. Additionally, the existing roadway does not meet minimum design requirements for roadside safety and sightlines. There are rock outcroppings along the corridor that limit driver sight distances from stopped vehicles, animals, bicyclists, or pedestrians. Most of the segment does not contain turn lanes for residential and business access, which exacerbates the congestion due to high traffic volumes. Lastly, the embankments for the creek do not have a recoverable slope, which means that an errant vehicle leaving the roadway will continue to the bottom of the slope, thus increasing the likelihood of property damage or injury. This is especially concerning due to the year-round presence of water in the creek. Now that we've discussed some of the existing physical features along the corridor, we will dive into the existing traffic patterns, safety, and what the future could look like if no changes are provided. First, some background knowledge and level of service. Level of service, or often abbreviated to LOS, is a qualitative measure of traffic operational conditions based on roadway capacity and vehicle delay. LOS is described by a letter designation ranging from A to F, with LOS A representing almost free flow travel, while LOSF represents very congested conditions. We will refer to level of service throughout this presentation, comparing the existing conditions to the proposed concepts developed to date. The existing traffic volume data was recorded pre-COVID-19 stay-at-home orders. The data includes daily 24-hour representations of traffic volume levels along specific roadway segments. Intersection turning movements were recorded at 4 locations. The intersections recorded are Buffalo Park Road, Little Cub Creek Road, Plettner Lane, and State Highway 74. As you can see on this figure, daily traffic volume levels along JC-73 are almost 16,000 vehicles per day, while other roadway segments' daily traffic volumes are quite varied from 3,000 to 18,000 vehicles per day. When considering the planning level of traffic volume typically associated with 2-lane roadways, it can be understood that JC-73 is nearing its theoretical capacity. The level of service is indicated on this exhibit by the different colors correlating to the legend. One intersection we'd like to note is the signalized intersection at Buffalo Park Road and JC-73. The eastbound and westbound left turn and through movements experience level of service E during both peak AM and PM hours. All other individual movements at the intersection operate at level of service C or better. Lastly, Plettner Lane and Little Cub Creek are stop-controlled intersections and do not operate as well as their signalized partners. These locations reach level of service E or F during the peak hours, but the poor level of service is not a function of the level of traffic on these side streets, but rather caused by the level of vehicle movements traveling along northbound and southbound JC-73. A safety assessment was completed for the existing study area based on an analysis of 5 years of crash history. The 5-year period analyzed was from January 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018. The image in front of you summarizes the types and numbers of crashes experienced. There were 65 crashes over the course of 5 years, which equates to approximately 1 crash each month over the entire corridor, a relatively low crash occurrence. There were some injuries, but there were no fatalities, and crashes were mostly concentrated at intersections. About half are rear-end crashes, which is related to stop-and-go traffic, as well as stopping maneuvers at intersections. The traffic volumes and operations are projected to year 2040 values considering a no-build option or no improvements completed by the year 2040. The percentage of traffic increases an average of 10% between now and year 2040. This equates to an annual growth rate of about 0.3% per year. While it is recognized that JC-73 may be reaching its theoretical operating capacity given the level of daily traffic, widening JC-73 for additional through lanes provides challenges due to the physical constraints of the natural environment on either side of the roadway and available funding. The next several slides will present the 2 corridor cross-section alternatives Jefferson County is reviewing. Jefferson County and the consultant team have developed 2 roadway cross-sections which attempt to balance the project goals. These next several slides will step through 2 alternatives and compare and contrast the 2 options. 2 quick reference fact sheets are provided at the end of this presentation that summarizes these concepts. Jefferson County would like to stress these are conceptual level designs. Design will only be completed for the selected preferred alternative, and impacts to properties, accesses, and environmental resources will be analyzed in detail at that point. At the end of this presentation and on the project website, you will find a link where you may leave your comments, questions, or concerns on these alternatives. The first corridor concept widens the existing 2-lane roadway to a 3-lane section. This section includes 1 northbound lane, 1 southbound lane, 1 2-way center left turn lane, a southbound bike lane, and an 8-foot shared use path on the creek side. This cross-section is better depicted in the section at the bottom of the slide. A wider cross-section may provide motorists with a little room for error and will improve sight distances around all corners. This option improves the existing parking areas, providing 4 dedicated parking lots. Parking options, along with the benefits and shortcomings, will be reviewed in more detail on slides 33 through 37. 2 potential full right-of-way acquisitions are anticipated to accommodate this cross-section, and Jefferson County will continue to work with these property owners. Temporary impacts or partial property acquisitions have not been analyzed at a conceptual level design. Taking a closer look at the alternative, these next few slides will progress from south to north starting at the intersection of Buffalo Park Road and JC-73. Signalized and roundabout options are being reviewed for this intersection. Additional alternatives are presented in more detail on slides 27 through 32. A heavy movement at this location is eastbound Buffalo Park Road to northbound JC-73. The design may double available left turn storage length to improve vehicle queuing along Buffalo Park Road. Another common choke point is the northbound merge from 2 lanes to 1. This design lengthens the merge area for the lane drop to improve flow of traffic and reduce backups. 5-foot sidewalks will be added on all sides of the intersection with an 8-foot shared use path along the creek north of the intersection. The existing bridge by the library will either be replaced or extended to better line up the Buffalo Park Road through and left turn movements. Progressing north, this design provides left turn lanes for the business and residential accesses on the east side of the road. The addition of these turn lanes improves traffic flow for southbound vehicles because the turning vehicle can wait for a gap in the northbound traffic without impeding southbound vehicles. All existing driveway accesses and culverts are anticipated to remain, and the 8-foot shared use path continues along the east side by the creek. The cross-section continues to north of Little Cub Creek Road. A 2-way center-left turn lane is provided in front of the church to provide access to residential properties, businesses, and a dedicated parking lot to the east. Little Cub Creek Road was modified to provide a designated left and right turn lane. The right turn movement is the heaviest, but is usually blocked by drivers waiting for a gap in the JC-73 traffic to turn left. This layout should relieve some of the backups. Another dedicated parking lot is provided on the east side of JC-73 across from the fire station. A mid-block crossing may be added to provide additional accessibility to the 8-foot shared use path on the west side of JC-73. Approaching the northern terminus of the study area, the 8-foot shared use path and 5-foot sidewalk are continued until they tie in at Plettner Lane and the existing sidewalk. The existing drainage culvert will be impacted by the wider footprint and will be extended. A retaining wall is likely required along the east side to cut back the rock outcropping, improving driver and bicycle sight lines. The remainder of the design will tie into existing before the intersection of JC-73 and State Highway 74. The second corridor concept does not currently have funding available for construction in 2022, but may be considered in a future phase. It widens the existing 2-lane roadway to a 5-lane section. This section includes 2 northbound lanes, 2 southbound lanes, 1 2-way center-left turn lane, a southbound bike lane, and an 8-foot shared use path on the creek side. This concept is better depicted in the section at the bottom of the slide. The cross-section may improve capacity and improve sight distance around curves. This option also improves the existing parking areas, providing 3 dedicated parking lots. Parking options along with the benefits and shortcomings will be reviewed in more detail on slides 33 through 37. 5 potential full right-of-way acquisitions may be required to accommodate this larger footprint. These are based on a high-level estimate, and Jefferson County will work with these property owners should this concept be considered at a later date. Temporary impacts or partial property acquisitions have not been analyzed at conceptual level design. However, there are approximately 4 properties that could see significant property impacts due to retaining walls or creek regrading. Beginning at the southern limits of the study area, signalized and roundabout options are being reviewed for this intersection. Additional alternatives are presented in more detail on slides 27 through 32. The modifications shown are very similar to the 3-lane cross-section presented earlier. The 2 differences are there is no merge needed for northbound drivers, and the exterior southbound lane transitions into a right turn lane to Buffalo Park Road. Progressing north, this design also provides left turn lanes for the business and residential access on the east side of the road. The addition of these turn lanes improves traffic flow for southbound vehicles because the turning vehicle can wait for a gap in northbound traffic without impeding southbound vehicles. All existing driveway accesses and culverts are anticipated to remain, and the 8-foot shared use path continues along the east side by the creek. This footprint also contains a 2-way left turn lane to provide access to residential properties, businesses, and the dedicated parking lot to the east. The most significant difference is the overall impact that this cross-section has to the western limits and the adjacent properties. A retaining wall is likely needed along the embankment on the west, which may encroach on additional properties. Little Cub Creek Road was modified to provide a designated left and right turn lane. The right turn movement is the heaviest, but is usually blocked by drivers waiting for a gap in the JC-73 traffic to turn left. This layout should relieve some of the backup. Another dedicated parking lot is provided east of the fire station. A mid-block crossing may be added to provide additional accessibility to the 8-foot shared use path on the west side of JC-73. Approaching the northern terminus of the study area, the 8-foot shared use path and 5-foot sidewalk are continued until they tie into existing sidewalks. This wider footprint may adversely impact Plettner Lane because the existing slopes are already very steep. Widening JC-73 will require more reconstruction of Plettner Lane to tie into existing, but ultimately it may be removed due to adverse slopes for safe driving conditions. The existing drainage culvert will be impacted by the wider footprint as well and will be extended, and Cabo Creek will need to be rerouted slightly. Retaining walls are likely needed on both sides of the corridor due to the existing rock outcroppings. The remainder of the design will tie into existing before the intersection of JC-73 and State Highway 74. The following slides look at screening criteria that fit the project goal themes and assign a positive, negative, or neutral ranking to better depict the benefits and shortcomings for each alternative. This slide compares the 3-lane and the 5-lane cross-sections for accessibility and right-of-way impacts. The most notable screening difference shown is the impacts to right-of-way and maintaining residential and business access. The 3-lane cross-section will require some right-of-way impacts, but the 5-lane section is much more substantial. And while both provide additional turn lanes, the 5-lane cross-section has a high potential to close Plettner Lane. If you'd like to review the remaining text on this page in more detail, please pause this video now and resume when you are ready. The two concepts are further compared for environmental impacts. While any widening of JC-73 will impact various environmental resources, the impacted footprint will be much larger on the 5-lane section. Feel free to pause this video now to review the text in more detail and resume when you're ready. Finally, the two concepts were compared as it relates to cost. The 5-lane cross-section will exceed available funding, while the 3-lane cross-section may be feasible within available funding. The summary of findings row essentially summarizes what was reviewed on the previous two slides, scoring it positive, negative, or neutral. This presentation will now shift gears to the intersection alternatives. Please pause the video now if you'd like to review the matrix in more detail and resume when you are ready. The Buffalo Park Road and JC-73 intersection sees substantial traffic, especially during AM and PM peak hours. To improve the traffic operations at this intersection, the consultant team analyzed several scenarios and will present the two most feasible alternatives, a signalized and a roundabout intersection alternative. The existing traffic signal does not operate efficiently, causing longer than desirable delays and vehicle backups. However, the consultant team has determined there are some signal optimizations available that could improve these existing conditions. The improved signal operation cannot be completed without adjusting the existing lane assignment slightly on Buffalo Park Road to remove overlaps between the left turn lane movements on eastbound and westbound. Signalized intersections have benefits and shortcomings as outlined on this slide. The biggest benefit is the smaller footprint, which can be incorporated into the compact mountainous surrounding area more easily and have less impact to the environment and geologic features and overall construction cost. A notable shortcoming for signalized intersections compared to a roundabout is the increased number of vehicle conflict points. For reference, the year 2040 no-build option shows the AM and PM level of service operating at a level of service C. This proposed modification improves the overall intersection AM and PM level of service to level of service B and C, respectively. A single-lane roundabout was analyzed at this intersection and found it will not provide an acceptable level of functionality during the AM and PM peak hours, even with the inclusion of a southbound right turn bypass lane. AM peak hour will experience level service F, and PM peak hour will experience level service E, a reduction from level service C during both peak periods if a traffic signal continues to be used. This option has been screened out and not provided in this presentation for those reasons. Instead, a partial 2-lane roundabout is considered because it can provide acceptable level of service for the traffic patterns at this intersection. The heaviest movement resulting in insufficient level of service improvements in the single-lane roundabout is the eastbound to northbound movement. There are many vehicles in the AM and PM peak hours, resulting in few gaps impeding the northbound vehicle's ability to enter the roundabout. Therefore, the option presented on this slide attempts to remove that issue by including a second northbound lane. This modification improves the overall intersection AM and PM level service to A and C, respectively. When comparing a roundabout to a signalized intersection, one of the major benefits that stands out is the reduction in vehicle conflict points. ultimately reducing the potential for crashes. The shortcoming of a roundabout option is the large footprint. There are steep grades approaching the roundabout from the west that would require substantial reconstruction of the intersection, ultimately leading to impacts to environmental and geologic features and overall construction costs. The following slides look at screening criteria comparing a signalized and a roundabout intersection. The criteria are assigned a positive, negative, or neutral ranking to better depict the benefits and shortcomings for each alternative. Comparing the signalized and roundabout intersection, you'll find the partial two-lane roundabout performs better in operations and safety. However, its large footprint has substantial cost implications and is likely to exceed available funding. If you'd like to review the remaining text on this page in more detail, please pause this video now and resume when you are ready. The Summary of Findings row essentially summarizes what was reviewed on the previous two slides, scoring at positive, negative, or neutral. Next, this presentation will review parking options in more detail. Please pause the video now if you'd wish to review the matrix in more detail and resume when you are ready. Both corridor cross-sections intend to use the existing dirt pull-offs and formalize them into dedicated parking lots. The options provided in the next several slides are suggestions, and the ultimate design of dedicated parking lots will be determined in final design. Additional information for benefits, shortcomings, and examples of the types of parking proposed is discussed in more detail on slides 35 through 37. Front-in angled parking is being considered for the parking lot east of the church because it is off-street and maximizes the number of parking spaces while utilizing the existing gravel area footprint. The three-lane concept assumes the existing parallel dirt pull-off in front of the church will be formalized with an accessible side lot. The 5-lane cross-section may impact the ability to provide parallel parking in front of the church. Lastly, an improved crosswalk will be considered to provide access between the two parking lots. There are two existing dirt pull-offs shown on this slide, one east of the fire station and on the west side just south of the intersection of Jefferson County Road 73 and State Highway 74. The suggested dedicated parking for the lot east of the fire station is a back-in or reverse angle parking lot because these spots will be accessed from the northbound through lanes. Back-in angled parking provides visual benefits to drivers and bicyclists when drivers pull out of the parking space. A raised median may be considered to eliminate southbound drivers from using the back-in angled parking incorrectly. However, considerations will be reviewed in preliminary design to assure the fire station can maintain all movements for fire trucks in events of an emergency. Parallel parking is suggested on the west side of JC-73, just south of the intersection of JC-73 and State Highway 74, instead of the current 90-degree style lot. The parallel spots will provide drivers with better lines of sight when entering or exiting their parking space onto busy northbound JC-73. Next, we'll provide some benefits and shortcomings of the suggested parking types for this corridor. Parallel parking provides the benefit of vehicles requiring smaller parking spaces and have better visibility of all road users when entering and exiting the parking space on a busy roadway. However, parallel parking does not provide as many parking spaces as angled or 90-degree parking lots within the same size footprint. Front-in angled parking provides more parking spaces compared to parallel parking, and it is a more conventional driving maneuver. However, this type of parking provides limited visibility for approaching vehicles, bicyclists, and other road users. Finally, back-in or reverse angled parking is relatively new to Colorado, but there are a few existing examples in Golden, Denver, and Boulder. The benefit for back-in angled parking is there is improved visibility of approaching bicyclists and oncoming traffic when exiting the parking space rather than backing out into oncoming traffic. Because of this benefit, there is typically a reduction in bike and car crash potential. However, because this type of parking is relatively new to Colorado, it is less of a familiar driving experience. That wraps up the presentation on the various alternatives being considered, and now we'll provide a brief update on the project schedule. In March of 2020, the consultant was hired to complete the current conceptual design phase. This phase is anticipated to be completed by September of this year. Once a preferred alternative is identified, the design phase will commence and is anticipated to be completed by spring 2022. The construction phase of the preferred alternative is anticipated to begin in summer of 2022 and to be completed by fall of 2023 to meet grant funding obligations. Thank you for attending the virtual presentation for the corridor study of Jefferson County Road 73 from Buffalo Park Road to Plettner Lane. Your comments and feedback are critical in making the best decision within your community, and Jefferson County values your input. Please use the comment form link provided to offer your questions and opinions. This form will be available until 11 p.m. July 29, 2020. A PDF of this presentation is available on the project website identified on this slide. Additionally, the following 2 slides are quick fact sheets for the 3-lane and 5-lane conceptual designs. Thank you again.